The night erupts without warning. A silent coastal highway suddenly turns into a battlefield of light and sound. Engines scream, tires explode, and armored vehicles freeze mid-motion as if time itself has been interrupted. Then precision chaos. Suppressed gunfire cuts through the darkness like invisible blades. No shouting, no warning. Only execution. Above the smoke-filled sky, helicopters hover like predators refusing to reveal themselves. On the ground, shadow-like figures move with surgical precision, sealing escape routes before anyone even realizes they exist. This was not an accident. This was not a reaction. This was a trap that had already been built in silence, long before the first shot was fired, and somewhere far away. Operators are watching every second unfold in real time, waiting for one final confirmation: the mission has already begun. The Strait of Hormuz lies under unnatural silence. Niel? It breaks. A convoy of armored vehicles moves along a narrow coastal highway, unaware that every movement is already being tracked. Suddenly, the stillness collapses. A burst of fire tears through the road, followed by sharp, skilled controlled detonations that freeze the convoy in place. Engines rev in panic. Headlights flicker like dying signals. Confusion spreads instantly across disciplined formations that were once perfectly synchronized. From above, unseen operators coordinate every second. Escape routes are sealed before they are even attempted. The convoy is not reacting to an attack, is realizing it has been surrounded. Every motion feels calculated. Every explosion feels intentional and deep inside command networks. Live feeds confirm what no one on the ground understands yet. This operation did not start when the shooting began. It started long before the convoy ever moved. Days earlier, intelligence units detect unusual movement along a remote coastal route. 6 heavy transport trucks move under strict radio silence, escorted by armed vehicles maintaining perfect spacing. Nothing about it appears accidental. Satellite. Analysts immediately notice irregular behavior routes chosen to avoid aerial tracking, timing patterns that shift unpredictably, and terrain usage designed to break surveillance continuity. At first, it looks like logistics, but then signal intercepts change everything. Encrypted chatter suggests mobile missile systems are being transported. Weapon platforms capable of controlling naval access through one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. The convoy doesn't just represent movement, it represents escalation, and once it disappears into the coastline's shadowed terrain, tracking becomes harder and the clock begins to collapse. Above the Earth, surveillance never sleeps. Satellites pass silently, capturing heat signatures through clouds and terrain. Drones hover beyond radar range, feeding live intelligence into encrypted command centers thousands of kilometers away. Analysts reconstruct the convoy's path in real time. But something is wrong. The convoy is adapting. It avoids predictable routes. It shifts timing. It uses terrain shadows like a shield against detection. This is not transportation, it is tactical movement. Designed for deployment, the intelligence picture becomes clear. Inside those covered trucks are systems capable of altering maritime security instantly, and if they reach deployment zones, the Strait of Hormuz stops being a passage. It becomes a battlefield. Inside a secure operations center, tension builds under dim red lighting. The convoy is still moving, but now its destination is no longer uncertain. Military analysts project worst-case scenarios: global shipping disruption, naval restriction zones, and economic shock across energy markets. Silence fills the room. Then comes the final assessment. Waiting is no longer viable. The decision is immediate. Elite units are authorized for interception. The mission transitions from observation to action. And at that moment, every second becomes irreversible. deep inside a forward staging facility. Elite operators prepare in silence. Delta Force and Navy SEAL units move through final checks under low light. Weapons are inspected twice. Communication systems are encrypted and tested repeatedly. No speeches, no emotion. It's only precision. Each operator understands the weight of the mission. This is not a conventional engagement. It is a moving target. Interception in hostile terrain. Outside, aircraft engines begin to warm. Inside, the silence grows heavier than noise, because everyone in the room knows, once they lift off, there is no return to preparation, only execution. The strategy is simple, but lethal. Intercept the convoy before it reaches deployment zones. Terrain analysis identifies a narrow coastal corridor. Cliffs on one side, open water on the other. A natural containment zone. Recon teams identify choke points, where movement slows naturally. The plan forms instantly. Air units block. Escape routes from above. Ground units seal both ends. The convoy will be trapped inside a controlled kill corridor. But planning is never the hardest part. Execution under uncertainty is inside. The convoy are mobile missile platform systems designed to relocate, hide, and strike from unpredictable positions. Once deployed, they could control shipping access across the Strait of Hormuz. Each unit represents a mobile denial zone, and if even one reaches firing position, naval movement becomes restricted. This is no longer transport, it is a moving strategic weapon. Command centers now display live tracking grids. Each convoy vehicle is mapped in real time. Speed changes, spacing, and movement patterns are analyzed instantly. Predictive models attempt to forecast deployment points. The convoy is now inside a controlled interception corridor. Every second matters. A delay could break the operation. An early move could expose the teams. Precision is everything, and time is shrinking fast. Authorization is granted instantly. The operation activates. Helicopters lift from hidden staging zones under radio silence. Ground teams move toward insertion points. The atmosphere shifts completely. Preparation is over. Now it is survival. Inside controlled chaos. The convoy is minutes from engagement, and every operator knows once contact begins. Control becomes an illusion, only reaction remains. Black Hawk helicopters fly inches above terrain. Avoiding detection, inside, operators remain motionless. Weapons secured, eyes fixed forward. Below them, coastline shadows blur into darkness. Navigation is based on timing, not visibility. Communication is minimal. Every vibration feels amplified. The aircraft moves like a ghost through hostile airspace and ahead. The convoy continues forward, unaware of what is closing in from above. The convoy is no longer moving through open terrain. It is entering something far more dangerous, an environment that has been studied, measured, and silently prepared for its arrival. Ahead lies a narrow coastal corridor where geography itself becomes a weapon. On one side, jagged cliffs rise, like a natural wall. On the other, dark water stretches endlessly into the Strait of Hormuz. There are no alternative routes here, no quick detours, no room for error. Inside the convoy, drivers maintain disciplined spacing. Engines run steady. Suspicion is absent. Everything appears routine. But what they do not realize is that every meter they advance is pulling them deeper into a controlled space they do not understand. High above, surveillance confirms final alignment. The convoy is now inside the designated engagement corridor. Not accidentally, but exactly where analysts predicted it would be, from multiple vantage points. Elite units are already in position. Some are above on elevated terrain, lying still against rock and shadow. Others are moving silently along flanking routes. cutting off any possible escape direction before it even becomes a thought. The tension is no longer building, it is compressing. Every second reduces distance between two realities: the convoy's perception of safety and the operator's reality of control. Inside command feeds, live tracking indicators stabilize. This is the moment planners were waiting for. The convoy is now fully contained within the kill geometry, and still nothing has happened. That silence is the most dangerous part, because in modern warfare, the most decisive moments are not marked by explosions, but by the seconds just before them. The convoy continues forward, unaware that its formation is being visually mapped, angle by angle, movement by movement. Even the slight spacing between vehicles is being analyzed for timing. Synchronization. A single command is now all that separates motion from collapse. Operators hold position. No movement. No noise. Only patience. Because once the first action begins, everything will accelerate beyond control. The terrain will close. Escape will vanish. Reaction time will disappear. And what remains is execution inside a corridor designed for one outcome only. The helicopters arrive without announcement. No lights, no warning. Just a sudden shift in the air as rotor wash disturbs the silence above the coastal ridge. From below, the coastline remains dark and unaware, waves breaking softly against rock, as if nothing is about to change. Then the descent begins. Fast ropes drop from the hovering, Black Hawks like thin lines cutting through darkness. One by one, operators descend into the unknown. No hesitation, no noise. Only controlled movement trained over years of repetition. Boots touch rock, and the battlefield begins to take shape. Delta Force operators land first on elevated positions overlooking the highway. They do not move immediately. They observe. They confirm. They become part of the terrain itself. Rifles are raised slowly, not in panic, but in precision. Seconds later, Navy SEAL teams follow, dropping into lower flanking routes closer to the road. Their movement is coordinated without spoken commands. Hand signals replace voices. Eye contact replaces instructions. The convoy is still advancing below them, unaware, unprotected, unchanged. But now it is surrounded from above and the sides. The geometry of escape is already collapsing. Every potential exit route is visually locked by trained operators, who are no longer inserting into the battlefield, they are already inside it. Communication is minimal. Only silent confirmations pass through encrypted systems. Each team reports position, each angle is secured, each sector is assigned. There is no rush, only inevitability. From this moment forward, the terrain belongs to the operation, not the convoy. And somewhere in the distance, engine noise grows slightly louder. The convoy is approaching, but what it cannot see is already waiting. There is a moment just before violence begins, where everything feels suspended, as if the world is holding its breath. On the ridgeline, a sniper adjusts his position slightly. A final visual confirmation passes through the scope, distance, speed, alignment, everything is locked. A silent command is given. No words, only a signal. And then it happens. A suppressed shot cuts through the night, not loud, but precise enough to change everything in an instant. The lead escort vehicle jerks violently as its driver is neutralized before he can even react. The vehicle swerves for half a second, then drifts uncontrollably into the roadside barrier. Behind it, the convoy reacts too late. The formation breaks for the first time. Confusion spreads instantly. Headlights flicker in irregular patterns. Engines rev without direction. Drivers attempt to understand what just happened, but understanding is already irrelevant. The second shot lands before questions can form. Another escort vehicle loses control. Then another, within seconds. The convoy's disciplined structure collapses into fragmented motion. Radios light up with panic, but communication is already compromised by speed and shock. From above, operators begin to move. The silence of preparation is gone. Now there is only execution. The kill zone is no longer a concept. It is active, and every vehicle still moving forward has already crossed a point of no return it never saw coming. The moment the convoy loses structure, the battlefield changes shape. What was once a coordinated formation becomes scattered metal and panic. Vehicles that were moving with discipline seconds ago are now reacting independently, each one trying to escape in a direction that no longer exists. But there is no escape from multiple flanks. SEAL teams begin their advance, fast, controlled, silent. They move between shadows of rock and broken terrain, closing distance with vehicles that are already disoriented. Flashbangs erupt in sharp bursts of white light, temporarily erasing visibility inside the convoy. Drivers lose orientation. Guards lose timing. Command collapses into noise. At the same time, Delta Force operators maintain overwatch from elevated positions. Every movement below is tracked. Every attempt to regroup is countered before it forms. The convoy is now fully contained. Inside a living perimeter, not a single direction remains open. Some armed escorts attempt to reposition, but they are met with immediate suppression. Controlled bursts of fire neutralize movement without allowing escalation. There is no chaos from the operators, only precision responses to every reaction below. Vehicles stall. Doors open abruptly. Some personnel attempt to flee on foot, but the terrain works against them, steep, exposed, and already covered by multiple sight lines. Within moments, the convoy ceases to function as a unit. It is no longer a moving formation. It is a sealed environment, under total control, and the operators have not even fully entered it yet. Inside the convoy, panic replaces discipline completely. What was once a coordinated security formation has now collapsed into fragmented survival behavior. Radios crackle with overlapping voices, but no one is truly communicating anymore. Every channel is filled with noise, confusion, and broken commands that never reach execution. Operators inside vehicles attempt to react, but every movement feels delayed, like the system itself is lagging behind reality. Engines rev, then stall. Doors open, then freeze. Decisions are made too late to matter. Outside, elite units continue their methodical advance. There is no rush, no emotional reaction, only structured movement through a collapsing situation. Each vehicle is approached with purpose. Each space is cleared with precision. Resistance appears in small bursts, but it is isolated and immediately contained. Nothing can organize. Nothing can stabilize. The battlefield is loud, but the control remains absolute, and in that contrast between panic inside and discipline outside, the outcome has already been decided. It happens quietly at first. No announcement, no dramatic discovery. Just a confirmation passed through encrypted channels that changes the entire weight of the corporation. The cargo is identified. Mobile missile systems, fully assembled, fully operational. For a brief moment, even the most experienced operators pause, not in fear, but in recognition of what they are standing inside. This is no longer just an interception. It is the containment of strategic lethal weaponry capable of altering maritime control in one of the most critical waterways on Earth. The implications hit instantly. If these systems had reached their deployment zones, they would not have needed large-scale positioning or long preparation windows. They could have been activated quickly, hidden among terrain, and used to create unpredictable denial zones across shipping lanes. The Strait of Hormuz would not just have been threatened, would have been segmented into controlled danger corridors. There is no discussion, no delay. The mission instantly shifts phase, from capture to neutralization. Demolition teams move forward immediately, securing each vehicle with precision checks. Weapons are no longer the focus. The systems themselves are. Every second now carries added urgency. Because the longer these systems remain intact, the higher the risk of recovery or reuse. The realization is simple but heavy. What was intercepted was not just a convoy, it was a mobile battlefield system that came dangerously close to activation. The operation enters its most delicate phase, not combat, but controlled destruction. Demolition specialists move with slow precision along the convoy line. There is no rush in their movements, only accuracy. Every vehicle is now stationary, disabled, and secured, but the danger has not disappeared. It has only changed form. The missile systems still exist. And anything that exists can still become a threat if left incomplete. Charges are prepared in silence. Each explosive device is checked twice, sometimes 3 times. Not because of doubt, but because there is no room for correction once this phase begins. Timing devices are synchronized across multiple points to ensure simultaneous detonation. Operators maintain perimeter security while demolition teams work. The battlefield has shifted again from fast-moving engagement to fragile control over time itself. A single mistake here could change everything. A misaligned charge, a delayed trigger, a missed attachment point, any of these could leave behind functional fragments. And so everything slows down, not because the urgency is gone, but because precision is now more important than speed. The convoy that once moved with strategic purpose now sits completely still, surrounded by silence broken only by distant wind and mechanical clicks of preparation. Each operator steps back after final placement, visually confirming positions. A final check is passed through encrypted communication channels. And then comes the pause. A brief, tense silence where nothing moves because everything is waiting for one final authorization that will decide when destruction becomes reality. The coastline holds its breath for a final second. No movement, no communication. Only the stillness of a completed operation waiting for its final release. The convoy sits broken across the narrow coastal road, disabled vehicles, sealed systems, and operators holding position at safe distances. Then the signal is given. It does not arrive with noise. It arrives with certainty. A sequence of controlled detonations ignites across the convoy line almost simultaneously. The first explosion punches into the night with a violent flash, followed immediately by a chain reaction that tears through the remaining vehicles. Fire rises instantly into the dark sky, not scattered, not random, controlled. Each charge performs exactly as planned, collapsing missile systems into burning fragments of twisted metal and shattered structure. Shockwaves ripple across the rocky terrain, shaking loose dust and debris from the cliffs above. For a brief moment, the entire coastline is illuminated, as if daylight has returned, but only through fire. Smoke begins to rise in thick columns, climbing high above the Strait of Hormuz, visible for miles across open water. The glow reflects across the sea, turning the surface into a shifting mirror of orange and black. Inside the command feed, there is no celebration, only confirmation. Target destroyed, capability eliminated. And just like that, the threat that once moved silently through the night is reduced to burning wreckages. Mission permanently erased. In seconds of controlled destruction, the explosion has barely faded when the second phase begins. Extraction above the burning coastline. Black Hawk helicopters return through thick smoke and rising heat distortion. The battlefield is no longer static, it is becoming active again. Distant movement appears on secondary roads. Headlights multiply. Enemy response units are closing in faster than expected. Time is now the most dangerous enemy. On the ground, Operators move quickly, but without panic. Prisoners are secured. Sensitive materials are collected. Any intelligence that could explain, expose, or predict future movement is prioritized. Everything else is secondary. Fast ropes descend once again, cutting through smoke-filled air. Teams board in structured waves, maintaining spacing even in urgency. No one rushes blindly. Every movement is still controlled even under pressure. The sound of approaching vehicles grows louder in the distance. Engines climbing hills. Tires gripping rough terrain. Reinforcements are seconds or minutes away. But the extraction window is already closing. The final operator boards. The ramp lifts and the helicopters begin to rise as they pull away from the coastline. The burning convoy remains below, still visible, still collapsing into smoke and flame. Within moments, altitude increases, and the battlefield disappears into darkness. By the time enemy forces reach the site, there is nothing left to intercept, only wreckage, and the echo of an operation already gone. The coastline is silent again, but it is not the same silence that existed before. Now it is broken by smoke, drifting slowly over burned metal, by the faint crackle of cooling wreckage, and by waves that continue to hit the shore as if nothing ever happened. The battlefield has vanished, but its evidence remains scattered across the narrow strip of land. Inside command centers, screens shift from live combat feeds to static reports. Confirmation messages arrive one after another. Target destroyed. Missile systems neutralized. Convoy eliminated. No celebrations follow. Only acknowledgement, because everyone understands what has changed. The immediate threat is gone, but the strategic tension remains. Shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz stabilize within hours, yet naval patrols increase. Surveillance expands. Radar coverage intensifies. The region does not relax, it adjusts. Elsewhere, analysts begin reviewing every second of the operation. Every movement is studied. Every decision is recorded. Not for victory reports, but for future anticipation. And then comes the quiet realization. This mission did not end a conflict. It interrupted one moment inside it. The ocean remains vast, indifferent, and moving. Tankers begin to pass again through the same waters that hours earlier were moments away from becoming a battlefield. But in military history, silence like this is never peace. It is only the pause between what was prevented and what may come next.